know about you, man, but I'm stoked to see those dragons on screen. What about you?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see the dragons as well. And like, what's really cool about this is that there are no books to compare it to outside of the one book, right? Like it's called Fire and Blood. Is that the name of the book that it's based off of?
Fire and Blood, and what I'll say about this is it's really more of a tragic story. I won't get all into it, but all I'll say is, so a lot of people try to compare Rhaenyra, that's the main character, with Daenerys, and that's just straight not true. Just because they have blonde hair, I love Daenerys, and the reason why is because what she originally stood for. She stood for making everyone break free, and she was about helping before Season 8. And unfortunately, this story is about two that in the end really are out for only themselves.
Yeah, I don't know. What I'm like about this is the fact that it's going to be hard to ruin. It's like that's what I was trying to get at there, is that, you know, with Season 8 Game of Thrones, I don't think any real big crazy fan of the series loved the way that Game of Thrones ended. And you know, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that books were not released yet that draw a conclusion. And so, you know, up until about midway, you know, through Season 6, maybe, you know, Season 5 was probably the last real, quote unquote, semi accurate as to how the events came from the novel. But they, like I said, we have to keep that balance of, you know, accuracy, but also like enjoyability and what you like to see on screen. So, point being is that I don't think that they're going to be able to, whoever the writers are of this show, I don't believe they're going to be able to mess this up. Like, I hope not. I don't want to. I'm going to knock on some wood. I'm going to knock on some wood, man. It's just like, I feel that because they're doing this season based on just one book, like, you don't have to go crazy with it. Like, you know, you don't have to try to keep up. Like, you can take your time and do this right, and I really hope they do. But again, you know, we've been proved wrong before, so like, I'm not gonna get my hopes way too far up. But I am excited about House of the Dragon. I think it's gonna be a really exciting series. It's not the spin-off series I wanted to see first, but I am excited to see it overall, because I do believe that the Game of Thrones universe, it really does captivate its watchers, its listeners, whatever you want to, you know, the audience as a whole. But, you know, I will say this. This is not confirmed. I guess it's a rumor at this point, but they are kind of in, I guess, talks at the very least of potentially doing another spin-off series. So the ones that we've heard of so far, I think this one is confirmed, the Snow series, talking about like almost the Jon Snow type of deal. But we're discussing like following Arya's character and like the whatever is west of Westeros. But my biggest thing that I really wanted to see, and I've mentioned this a lot last year as well, especially towards the end of Game of Thrones, is that I would really love to see the events of Robert's Rebellion. There is a source, I don't know how accurate it was, that they were in talks, at least for consideration at HBO, for tackling Robert's Rebellion, and that would be a lot of fun. I would really want to see that. I think that's just a lot of. I want to know the historical context of what leads into it, right? You know, we don't ever start from the beginning of time type of deal, but I would really like to see the events of Robert's Rebellion. And you know what? On top of that too, and this is just a little bit off topic, not crazy so much because it does something that we tackled in season 1 of Factor Fantasy, but I know we had mentioned it'd be really great if HBO could do a Harry Potter reboot in sort of like a series format. If they don't want to give us that, I would settle for like a series about the Marauders growing up. I would love a prequel about the Marauders. I know Chase always enjoyed maybe the founding house members and you know, following them along. I'm not as interested in that, but I would absolutely love to see a prequel surrounding the Marauders, you know, in the Harry Potter series. I think that'd be cool to see James and Sirius and Lupin in school, you know, they just learning and causing mischief, and you know, the first real big war with Voldemort and the original Order of the Phoenix, how that was formed. I think that would be so sick, man. I really do. I think it'd be really cool. And watching them, you know, up until the point where Voldemort tries to kill Harry, you know, what everything looked bleak and like they were gonna lose, and it was gonna be, you know, the Dark Ages there. It was just, I would love to see that on screen. So, if anyone out there at HBO is listening, hey man, just give us the Marauders, man. Give us a prequel on the Marauders for Harry Potter, please. I'll be a happy camper. But I don't know. What are some things that you would be looking forward to seeing here in the future with some of these shows? And what, like, from your, like, what you, like I said, like your desires, what you would want to see going forward?
Robert's rebellion would be badass. Remember, that's where Robert literally hit a Rhaegar with that hammer and the rubies went everywhere. It'd be amazing to see that on screen, and whoever would play Rhaegar, I would imagine, would just be like a badass. Would have to be an absolute badass. What's your opinion on like Fantastic Beasts?
Well, I just don't think that there was a big, huge clamoring for it to begin with. They were supposed to be like anecdotal books that were just fun reads to keep people entertained after the Harry Potter series was over. Like, oh, here's some little side things. I don't believe it was ever really meant to be like a big series. And then on top of that, it's not even the Fantastic Beasts. I don't care about it. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. I'm just not interested.
Let me rephrase that just to be clear. Like, it doesn't mean it hasn't been successful, but not near as successful as the original series. So,
which is kind of weird too, because the original film series is successful, like monstrously successful. I don't think that there was enough context or background information for them to pull a movie and do a great job with it for the Crimes of Grindelwald. Everything that they came up with, it just it was almost out of the clear blue sky. You know what I mean? I don't know how involved J.K. Rowling was in the making of those films, if she was involved at all. I'm not sure, but it just wasn't captivating because it wasn't a story that we grew up with. Like, we grew up with Harry Potter. Like, we were kids. Like, we were the same age. Like, I would think I was 11 when Harry's 11, back when the fucking, whatever, the Sorcerer's Stone came out. Yeah, so I guess for me, it's like, I felt like I got to grow into the person that I was with Harry. You know what I mean? I got to follow along with the story. And so as I grew up with it, and that you have that level of nostalgia and that emotional connection because you were going through the same kind of trials as Harry was, just like being a teenager. Because I will say, in 2007, I believe that I was he was 17 years old, and I think I was 16 or 15. I was 15 or 16. So like, I'm right around the same age as Harry when like the Deathly Hallows came out, and this is like the end all thing. And so like, I grew with him, and so like I said, you have a deep emotional connection with these characters, especially if you were an avid reader back then. And so it just was never gonna be as big of a hit with the spin-off series because we didn't care too much about them. They weren't something that we grew with. We didn't have an emotional connection, so I didn't give a fuck what the Gellert Grindelwald was doing. Like, I didn't give a shit. Like, the Crimes of Grindelwald, you know what I mean? I don't know. And maybe if we had gotten some more backgrounds, or there was side novels, even if there were short stories, just talked that really detailed some of these things, and they based the films off of that, maybe I would have been more interested. But to be honest, I didn't care. I don't know. That's why I think the way I think on these like spin-off films for Harry Potter, such as Fantastic Beasts and Crimes of Grindelwald. I don't know. What do you think about it?
I think this is what people are missing. Is it's different than the Game of Thrones universe and something like, even if you have the Witcher universe, how they're doing Blood Origins, and even even Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and stuff, because the difference is, with Harry Potter, we were following three main kids, and this was the first time, just like you said, we really grew up with them. So whether it compared exactly or not, you wanted to see them on screen because you wanted to see them age with you. Watching it was great because, remember, that was the first time you had the Yule Ball. You almost felt like being, as a kid at that time, that's when you almost had like the school dances starting at that age. So you're like, oh my word, like the fifth one, you're like, oh man, Harry finally kissed a girl. Like, I remember doing that. Like, that's kind of thing, and that's what they're missing. Like, even going back to Game of Thrones, like, the reason we love characters like Jon Snow, Daenerys, and Arya, and that you watch them grow through that series. Gellert Grindelwald, yeah, you hear about him in the book, but he's already like an older man. I'm not growing any character attachment to this person.